Well, hello, everybody, and here I am today having a chat with Kim. Hello, Kim.
Hello, Pam.
So, Kim is originally from Zim, but moved to Cape Town, is now in the UK, having been a carer for 8 years. But your original work was as a teacher. What did you teach?
Sports science at a high school in Cape Town.
Sports science. Okay.
Mhm.
So, Kim, though, is right now, alongside being a carer, she's evolved into a lot of what we'll call we work as opposed to me work, which is fabulous. And we'll get to that later. But there are a few questions I want to ask everyone I interview is, how did you get into care? Why are you in care?
Okay, well, that's a sort of a complicated and complex and very intense question, but I'll try and keep it short while I explain it. I think originally I got into care because coming to the UK found it difficult to get back into teaching, and care for me seemed like probably the next best obvious thing to do, having been a parent myself, um, and having been able to keep home and those kind of things, which are all obviously tools and techniques that you need in the industry. It seemed like a logical thing to do, and for me, it was driven purely by financial needs. Um, we were relocating from South Africa to the UK. I needed to find a job where I didn't have to worry about paying for food and lodging. I could have a bit of savings, and I could basically pave the way for my family to follow, with a little bit of pounds already in the bank and a little bit of the sort of background work that needed to have been done. And I think that was my main reason for getting into care. And I think as the 8 years have evolved, obviously I've changed towards my attitude to why it is that I'm actually here. And that's become quite different to the original financially driven reason for being here.
So I think the financially driven reason is for most of us coming from Southern Africa. For me, I've been fortunate in that I have a partner who is UK based, but even so, I'm fully aware that if he goes, I might have to go back into care work, which I did years ago based on my nursing career. But I'm also very aware it's a tough, tough industry. Um, it's not as easy as it seems. We're looking at, I can get money. I do know some certain basic skills that will help me. But my first question then is, was it financially viable for you, especially when you were saving to bring your family over?
Definitely. I mean, I originally signed up with one of the top agencies here, did my training through them, and there was just an abundance of work available at that time. So, I was going out for 2 week assignments, having 1 or 2 days off, and going out for a new assignment. So basically, as with any industry, you can work as hard as you want to work. You can have a week off if you like, or 2 days off. And being on my own, I chose to obviously just have a couple of days off in between. And so, yes, but before my husband arrived, I'd got myself a little car. I managed to put down a deposit for a little rental home that we were going to move into. Managed to send money so that the dogs could come over as well. So, absolutely, I was ahead 3 months ahead of him anyway. So, it gave me 3 months of real earning capacity to really put the nuts and bolts in place and paving our way forward for a life in the UK.
And something that I see a lot of newcomers are having to pay for is they're coming over because they're entitled to be here as the carer, but their spouse needs a spousal visa, which is very expensive now. Did you have to pay for a spousal visa?
No, my husband and I were very lucky because our parents registered us at birth as British subjects. So we both had British passports. And in fact, it even went one step further and our children got British passports as well. So we were very blessed. We were not
Yes,
in that situation, no.
yes, I know. Same with me. The law changed where British citizenship descended through the mother. At one stage, it was only the father. We could
Right.
get ancestral visas, and that's when I came over and did caring work. But
Mm,
then they changed the law and they said, no, 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 that's sexist. Both parents can pass on your right to have a passport here, citizenship
right.
rather, and then
Mm,
you get your passport. So I got that. But I must say, I didn't want to leave Africa. I was very upset. But the economy, as a friend of mine calls it, we are economic migrants. We
mm,
need to earn money, and we're not
mm.
able to earn it in Southern Africa anymore. Because you're from Zim, I'm from Namibia, and then we've both had contact with South Africa, where we've lived and worked.
Mm. Mm.
So you mentioned that your reason was initially economic and you met that need. But now you're in it for different reasons. Explain that.
I think for me, as I evolved as a person in the sense of, I was grappling for ways of coping in the industry, and there was nothing out there that was even available remotely to help somebody like myself that had come from a really sort of high-powered teaching position where one is really respected and looked up to, into a situation where I wasn't that anymore. So of course, personally, I took a huge knock, and I really grieved the loss of that life and the way things were. And I knew that if I had to get ahead in this industry, it was really important for me to really start looking at my own personal growth and really figuring out ways of how I could survive in the industry. So it went from a financially driven idea, which obviously still is pittering in the background anyway, but into more of a situation where I started to grow as an individual, and I started to cope better with life in general, not even just the care industry. And so the self-improvements that came through the industry was nothing short of miraculous. It was a really beautiful transition. And so I decided to write articles and blogs on my journey, and that started my website. And I think to date, I've written probably about 150 odd blogs based on the journey that I've taken. And of course, the platform of the care industry enabled me to have that freedom to sit and self-reflect and look at my life and look at those things, because I had the space to not be entangled in family life. It was just me and my clients, and I could get on with looking after them, but at the same time, looking after me.
I think
So,
that's
yeah.
fabulous. I mean, I like what you said about grieving for yourself, because you're right. It takes a huge knock. I came from owning my own business, being in charge of training and development for a group of Namibians, being a leader in things. And suddenly in the UK, I'm so unimportant, so undervalued, and I'm confused by how the world works. And I found that my approach failed completely. I had to adapt, I had to change. And that's where we come to the me work. And as you say, you've now moved on to the we work, which is fabulous. And I'll put a link to your blog when I post this, because you've written some beautiful stuff. I must say they're pretty intense, but I think they are so well thought out, so beautifully written, that they're lovely to read and realize, whoa, there is so much scope out there, as you say, within the world of care, to have time to reflect. And we need to, because I think your personal development is under scrutiny when you go into care work and you're in a different environment. Plus, I think it was unexpected for most of us. Were you expecting it to be that difficult?
Not really, but I mean, I think that comes into the real downfall of the industry. I think that, and sort of one would say the really sort of worst parts of the industry is the fact that you go into the industry, you have the physicality to get on and do the work that is necessary. You have your manual handling and all your bits and bobs that is necessary, but you're so unprepared emotionally for what to expect that you suddenly realize you're in a situation where, yes, you're in a service industry, and 99.9% of the time you are in service to somebody else, and you soon realize that you are giving and giving and giving, and no one's really filling up your cup. And suddenly you're burnt out, and you're in a whole completely you're in a mental health crisis, because suddenly no one's taking care of you. And I think that's what really forced me into looking at the side of caring that would help me as an individual, because I wasn't getting it from anywhere else. So
No.
I was forced to number one, look at the situation I was in, really sit with my feelings in that particular placement, understand what was happening for me, understand what I was going through, and then kind of looking at that and going, I need to learn more about this. Why am I feeling this way? What's happening here? And I think every single placement that I went to really ignited the desire to write a blog on it because of just what I learned in that placement that I was at. So I think therein lies the problem, as I say, with the industry, is that there just is no help out there for carers who are looking for emotional support. And
fully agree with you.
Yeah.
And that's why I started what I'm doing. And I think one of the important things is to realize we're not alone. So we're going to stop this chat. And the next 2 chats are going to be on what we've touched on now is what is good about caring for you, and then what is bad. And we'll end up with some advice, the third one. So let's stop this little chat so that we can keep it neat. And then we'll do 2 more on the good, the bad, and a third one on advice for new carers. So Kim, thank you so much for sharing your journey. And then let's make it more specific on good, bad, and advice.
Lovely.
Thanks,
I look forward
Kim.
to that. Thank you.